Okay, so I've been reading a lot of papers about the kidney. I'm interested in the relationship between the kidney and the brain. And what I noticed is one paper after another, they're just totally stupid. They try to understand leaky gut, and all they talk about is a different gut flora that they've DNA sequenced, genetic nonsense. And I say to myself, why are there so many stupid papers that are just meaningless? And it came to mind the quote by Thomas Pynchon, the writer. He said, if you ask the wrong question, then the answer really doesn't matter. So these researchers, they don't know nutrition, toxicology, gut, brain, kidney, blood flow, pathophysiology. They don't understand plasma membrane ion pumps, the glycocalyx. They don't understand calcium metabolism, mitochondrial inhibitors. And so because of that, they're not capable of coming up with anything useful. And medical school and PhD school education in the United States and most of the world is a joke. They don't learn the things most relevant to health. If you really want to study health, you need to know nutrition, epidemiology, EMF, toxicology, the things that start with S, and the stuff I just mentioned here. The more of that stuff you know, the more you can grasp what really causes diseases. That's why medical doctors are a joke for the treatment of chronic disease, because they don't know anything about it. They haven't studied. It's not part of their curriculum. And then they have this false sense of knowledge that they're the so-called gold standard when they're a joke. They never cure the patient. Okay, so then we move on. So that's what motivated me to make the talk. Thomas Pynchon's, if you ask the wrong question, the answer really doesn't matter. Okay, then there's stuff, you might have heard me say some of this stuff before, and it's all true, so I'll quickly go through it again. Conflict of interest. You cure a patient, you lose a customer. So the drug companies, insurance companies, the hospitals, and the doctors, they all lose money if the patient gets better. So it's not in their financial interest to cure these patients. You keep them, on a chronic disease, taking a pill every day. It's like you milk them like a cow for the rest of their life. You turn them into a chump. Okay, it's very routine for patients to be on 10 or 15 medicines. You just ask any doctor. Plenty of patients are on 20 different medicines a day. You'd be amazed at how common polypharmacy is. Okay, the drug companies and the food companies, they're billion-dollar businesses. They just buy the journal, buy the scientists, and promote their products. That's why industry-funded research is almost always a joke. That's also why so-called nutrition experts on the internet, when they are quoting industry-funded research, it's usually just a joke. They'll just publish as many papers as they want to say that their product is good, and then they'll say, well, the balance of the evidence supports our product. Yeah, because they saw 5 papers criticizing their product, so they made 10 papers to say their product is good. Then they can say the majority of papers say our product is good, but it's all nonsense. That's why you need to look at biochemical mechanisms. I actually had a patient tell me recently, they contact me, some of these people that are pretty smart, and he's like, that's the unique thing about you. You go into the biochemistry. You're trying to understand it. You're not just trying to sell stuff. Okay, next thing is there's no moral foundation. United States was founded as a Christian country. If you study the history of it, that's quite clear. However, look up David Barton, the historian, all right? What's happened now is United States is in what you would call a forced religion of atheistic Darwinism. That is the religion which controls the high schools, the colleges, and the medical schools, and American society and the healthcare system. It has no moral foundation. Atheism, once you say there's no God and there's no rules, you can do whatever you want. And so the more money and power you have, the more you just make the rules to serve your own purposes. Okay? So what atheistic Darwinism says, this is an important point, it says that humans are not really anything special. They're just monkeys that talk. They have no soul. There is no God. Life is meaningless. There is no afterlife. They have zero rights. So once you go down this path of atheism, it's why help people when you only get pocket change for that by telling them the truth about vegan diet and all this stuff, when you can make lots and lots of money by tricking them and ripping them off. The higher you go in the healthcare system, the more you will see hatred for the patients. The billionaires that kind of control the system to some extent, they don't like the common man, the prole. As far as they're concerned, there's just too many proles. And all these proles, they're polluting the sky, they're polluting the water. They really think of them as vermin. I am not just saying this. If you actually do some reading, you will see that this is well known, okay? And they say to themselves, wouldn't it be nice if there weren't so many proles? The sky would be more clear, the water would be more pure. So they want to reduce them. And this is well known. This is well known and in writing for decades if anybody opens a book. Most people are a bunch of functional illiterates who don't know anything and just assume they know. and they don't even have access to any useful information sources. Okay, so anyways, what I'm trying to say is, just look at it as a hypothetical. If you love someone, you would not poison them, okay? If you were indifferent to them, you would not poison them. If you are a Christian, even if you hated them, you would not poison them, okay? However, if you're an atheistic Darwinist, then there's no rules. And if you can get away with it, it's acceptable by that standard to poison people for profit. And people say, "Oh, how could you say that?" It's obvious. Look at what they actually do. Every day, every single day in the United States, they poison children for money. They do it for attention deficit with amphetamines. All these drugs, you could cure most hypertension and diabetes quite easily with a low-fat vegan diet, but no one ever does. Virtually never. Never. I've never seen such a thing in conventional medicine. So what I'm trying to say is they just take drugs that are metabolic poisons, okay? And it's pretty obvious if you've read and thought about it. Fyodor Dostoevsky and Brothers Karamazov said, if there is no God, then everything is permitted, even cannibalism. And of course, we do commit cannibalism every day. They abort, babies, and they make them into meds that people take, and that's a form of cannibalism, okay? We now have this thing called MAID, M-A-I-D, where that program allows, this is for real, they allow teenagers, with the help of the medical system, to undergo, Sue, and then I'll say the last part separate, side, okay, of teenagers. It's insane. And of course they use that to decrease the number of older people. But what I'm trying to say is, once you go down this path of atheistic Darwinism, this is what you get. And that's why I'll also say it, and it's true. You could never fix the healthcare system unless you have a religious, Bible-based mindset that man is created in the image of God and therefore intrinsically valuable, and we will not abuse him. We will do right by him. Just like parents love a child, you have to have love and appreciation for the patient in that sense, that you will do right by them. Because when you do right by them, it's not as profitable. But in the long run, it makes it better for everybody. So that's where we're at. And there's no medical, surgical, technology, bullshitology that's going to make any difference. AI is going to be a joke. AI is going to be written by you-know-who, the companies that sell stuff like drugs. And they're going to say, give the patient more drugs, okay? It's going to be a big joke. It's obvious.